Good afternoon. Welcome in on a Thursday afternoon as we get ready for the fourth week of the college football season. And let's get rolling with some of the biggest games of the week. How about Florida at Mississippi State? How about Florida at Mississippi State? Auburn hosting Arkansas. I think that's a sneaky, really good game. Tennessee and Oklahoma, obviously the biggest game of the day. UCLA, LSU. Vandy, Missouri. We'll talk to one of the stars of the Missouri team coming up. And Arch Manning taking on Monroe. That's the nightcap in the SEC. And we say hello to our normal Thursday compatriot, Mike Griffith. Mike, good afternoon. Hope the week has gone well. I hope you made it back from the Bluegrass.
Yeah, it was a good game, wasn't it, Paul?
A little surprising. We also have Malachi Starks on a little bit later on, so we'll dig heavily into that game. But I do want to talk to you about Mike Bobo and the Georgia offense because we've had some very negative calls coming in from Dog fans. Very nervous, very disappointed with only 13 points. What do you make out of it all?
I start out giving the home team a lot of credit. That was a charged up Kentucky team. Albeit a team that got beat pretty bad the week before by South Carolina, but with a former Georgia quarterback and a former Georgia middle linebacker. Pretty good defensive line play. And really, they only turned it over, I think, once. It led to 3 Georgia points. But I think the red alert is that the Georgia line play wasn't dominant. And granted, Tate Ratledge, the best offensive lineman for Georgia, left the game in the second quarter. He'll be out 5 or 6 weeks. I think he's had tightrope surgery. So you took a little bit of a blow. I didn't think Carson Beck played well, and I've said it all year. I don't sense that Carson is settled down enough to be comfortable in the clutch. I think Georgia felt like they could run the ball. ETN did get it done down the stretch when they needed to, but early on it was kind of that field position game and a big hit by Jalen Walker that looked like it could flip field position, and they protected the quarterback quite a bit on that play, and that's in question, led to a first down, and but it was that kind of slugfest, Paul. If you look at Georgia's history at Kentucky, they typically haven't scored a lot of points these last few trips to Lexington. It turns into one of these slugfest games, and Kentucky backs to the ball, played inspired, and I didn't think Carson Beck played particularly well, and Georgia's defensive line, missing a couple starters, got pushed around a little bit more than I'd imagined they would.
Talking to Griff, a number of other things going on in the SEC. The biggest game of Saturday night is going to be in Norman. Your thoughts on the hype show going to the newbies out in Oklahoma?
Well, a lot of incentive for Tennessee. I saw where they were given like a 10% tax on sales ticket, a
Yeah.
talent fee, right?
How about
These
that?
guys are so good. Yeah, these guys are so good. They're going to raise your ticket prices 10%. I think they better win. If you're paying for it, I think they're expecting to win, and I expect to win. Josh Heupel's done a great job, but beyond that, just the drama of Josh Heupel having quarterback there and coached alongside Brent Venables when he was on the staff as well. There's a lot of familiarity there. Obviously, this is a big game for Josh going back to Norman, Oklahoma, and a big game for Tennessee. If you look at their road record since Josh has been there, it's not the most inspiring. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. They have not played well in big games, some big games on the road. Granted, they did beat LSU, but I think back to their trip to Sanford Stadium when it was a number one versus number one, and Tennessee kind of melted in the rain amid the crowd noise. You wonder if Tennessee can handle the crowd noise at Oklahoma. You wonder about the freshman or the redshirt freshman, whatever you want to call Nico. He's an incredible talent, but he is going to get hit. This is a good Oklahoma defense, and a lot of people are saying that Tennessee hasn't been tested. There's still some people out there that say this is a gadget offense. I don't agree with that. I think it's an exciting offense, and it's an explosive offense that really challenges defense with the verticals, but Tennessee can also run the ball. To me, though, the real matchup is that Tennessee defensive line against the Oklahoma offensive line. I'm just not sure how Oklahoma can establish a run and get any kind of balance. That's why I like Tennessee to win this game. I like Nico a lot. I'm a believer in this Tennessee team. Some people, Paul, we do this AJC power poll. There's a couple of people that actually moved Tennessee ahead of Georgia in the SEC, Chris Doring being one of them, that have Tennessee as the number 2 team in the league behind Texas right now. So it's going to be a big game, no doubt. It's the biggest game of the week, unless you're Billy Napier. It's a big game. Tennessee, Oklahoma, it's a marquee matchup. It's under the lights. We've seen that line swing from Oklahoma by 3.5 to Tennessee by 7. If the Vols cover that spread, Vegas takes a bath. So it's fascinating to me. I think I'm a believer. I'm all in on Tennessee. I think Oklahoma's got too many questions. They've had too many injuries. I think this is going to be a very big win for Tennessee. And who knows? Maybe by the time the plane gets back in Knoxville, they'll have raised the ticket prices 20 or 25%.
Well, by the way, I mean the ticket surcharge, I believe, Mike, was on top of an already ticket increase.
Well, listen, you and I both know, and you being a graduate of the University of Tennessee, that is a very hungry fan base. And there's nothing wrong with that because guess what? That's what fuels NIL is hungry fans and hungry sponsors. If you get around some of these other programs, they tell themselves, oh, well, Kirby's got it going, or boy, Alabama's got it. Listen, you're only as good as the last check you write. This is a new game. All that you don't have any equity built up in the minds of recruits. The next recruit doesn't care. He wants to get paid. And right now that's advantage Tennessee. If you look at the facilities that Tennessee has built up and you look at the strength of that NIL, and you've got business people running the University of Tennessee right now. Tennessee is poised for an SEC takeover. This is a very big game for Josh Heupel. He needs to win this game, shut down Oklahoma. I think Venables is the guy of the future. They've just had some injuries. Give him a little bit more time to get some players in there. But very big game for Tennessee. A lot of momentum for the Vols right now, Paul.
A week ago, you told us that your sources indicated to you that money was being raised to buy Billy Napier out. I'm not, by the way, I'm not going to Gainesville tomorrow. I'm finally skipping the University of Florida. But I did see Scott Strickland while I was down there, and he sent me, want to make sure he sent his best to you. What's going on in Florida right now, other than a game tomorrow, a game Saturday against Mississippi State that will bewilder the audience?
Well, I read an Associated Press report from Mark. He's been there a long time. He says it's not if, it's when. And when the AP is saying that the AP is I don't know that they're ever really wrong. So many talented writers there. Paul Newby. I could go on and on with Teresa Walker. They're just incredible reporters. It sounds to me like it's now. The question is, Paul, do you fire Billy Napier if he loses to Mississippi State? Because you got to hire somebody. And I don't know who's out there floating around that's interested. Oh, wait a minute. Did we see John Gruden saying he's interested in coaching and possibly at the collegiate level? Now, would you, if you're Florida, would you take a flyer on letting John Gruden finish out the season as an interim head coach, Paul?
I mean, you've read the same things I've read, Mike, but there was an AD quoted recently saying that nobody would touch John Gruden right now.
Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of guys that have been touched, Hugh Freeze, that maybe didn't have the cleanest background, but they were able to win. And when I think about where college football is headed right now and this talent acquisition and this locker room management of salaries, I'm not so sure that'd be a horrible thing, especially when you consider John Gruden's background in Florida. He did a pretty good job coaching the NFL when he was in that state. I think it would be intriguing. And look, if I'm Florida and you lose at Mississippi State, to me, that is an indictment on Billy Napier, and it's time to let him and his wife and family move on. And with the struggles of the whatever 27 million they'll take with them, it's time to let them move on and let someone try to infuse some energy and build some momentum. Because otherwise, it's that old dead. I hate that term, dead man walking, but that's what it turns into. So I think if they lose, and I don't think they'll lose at Mississippi State. If they win, I think isn't Florida coming into a bye week? It would seem to me that would be a good time to make a change. But again, you've got to have somebody else run the program. You're not going to pull an active coach mid-season to Florida. So you have to have an interim in position. And I haven't researched that beat like some of those other talented writers down there like Kevin Brockway and Edgar Thompson. I can't tell you who's on the staff and who could handle an interim role. I just know that if Billy Napier loses this game to Mississippi State, I think the drum beats will be deafening, and I think Florida needs to make some sort of move to try to build some momentum for the remainder of the season. Granted, it's a very difficult schedule. Again, I'm on the outside looking in, but if I could take a flyer on John Gruden, that's kind of a high risk, high ceiling. I would absolutely do that.
And considering his recent firing from the NFL, what would make you think that John Gruden, who has never coached, I don't think he's never been a head coach in college football. He may have he did something at Tennessee once. I really don't remember what it was. Do you?
Didn't he marry like a cheerleader?
I think he married a cheerleader. I'm not sure he's ever coached.
Well, I mean, Lane
he was a
Kiffin
grad
got fired
assistant. I'm sorry, under John Majors.
I mean, Lane Kiffin was a complete failure in the NFL, and now he's one of the hottest coaching names out there. I mean, people learn, people get better, but Paul, we're not talking about amateur athletics anymore. We're talking about pro sports at the collegiate. These athletes are getting paid. They're getting fined for infractions. There's different salary structure in the locker room to manage. There's talk about limiting rosters, and so
When
you
we
don't
know all
have
that,
the
Griff, but you're still not convincing me why a school that has had a losing record on coaches would take a flyer on someone that no one else seems to want anything to do with. And by the way, I don't know John Gruden. I met him one time, perfectly whatever, but that seems like a big risk for a school like Florida.
Well, I think it's a risk to keep a coach that continues to lose and all the interest goes down and all the money goes down the drain because people don't want to donate and recruits don't want to commit to a coach they know is going to be fired. I think you need to be proactive here. Again, I don't know if there's a person on staff that's more qualified than John Gruden, but look, you're talking about a
I bet you
championship
could find
coach.
somebody out there who's not coaching right now who could probably handle it. That doesn't have the mountain of emails and bad news that John Gruden left the NFL with.
Yeah, well, Deion Sanders didn't exactly have the cleanest closet either when he entered into the college game, and it turned into a bit of a sideshow and, quite frankly, a lot of excitement for Colorado. At the very least, it would show some effort on Florida's part. Keeping
By the way,
Billy
I'm
Napier
surprised
and
you haven't.
whistling by the
I'm surprised you
graveyard.
haven't suggested Nick Saban since you already have him going to Ohio State.
Well, actually, I never said that. I said that I thought he would coach again, and we were throwing out schools that would be
Okay.
possibilities for Nick. And I think you kind of took the ball and ran with it like Trevor Etienne did in Georgia's game-winning drive against Kentucky. Pretty talented guy, by the way. Look, I'm not the Florida athletic director. I don't host these parties with important people and persuade people. I'm not that person. I'm just on the outside looking in, saying if I was Florida and I have a coach that I know I'm going to
So
fire, and I need
are
some.
you now criticizing me for going to Scott Strickland's house last Friday night? Is that what this is?
I didn't even know you were. I should have figured
I
you
mean,
would be on that
he
guest list.
invited the entire crew, Mike, and I thought, as considering he seems to be in the know right now, it wasn't a bad idea to drop in.
Oh, I'm sure the hors d'oeuvres were good too. Do
They
they
were.
serve gator
They were
meat or
quite good.
Billy Napier
By the
meat?
way, he has
I don't know.
I hope he stays. I hope he keeps his job. It is a beautiful house.
Well, I'm sure Billy Napier does too, and he'll be
I
able to
bet he
buy plenty
does.
more when he gets bought out. But look, we're just we're spitballing this, right? I mean, Jamie Chadwell's at Liberty right now. I saw some odds come out. I know I've mentioned him a couple times, and some people say no, they need an established guy. Okay, well. Again, I don't know who you're going to get mid-season if you're going to make a move, but why make a move just to make a move? If you get some nobody with a hopeless chance of, why not? All I'm saying is, what do you've got to lose? If you keep Billy Napier, we already know the end. All I'm saying is, why not take a chance on a Super Bowl champion coach who's very sophisticated, has done a great job in the media. Yes, he's made mistakes. I think all these coaches have at some point or another, whether or not they acknowledge them or admit to them. Again, Lane Kiffin doesn't have the cleanest coaching closet in the
By
world
the
if you
way,
want to talk about
I mean,
reputations.
why would you go get John Gruden when you got Steve Spurrier there?
Well, I think a lot of Coach Spurrier. I wouldn't want to put him in any sort of political firestorm. I know that Coach has some
All he would be
limitations right
doing would
now.
be finishing the season, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he'd be open to that. I really haven't discussed that with Coach Spurrier.
Okay,
I think he's a great mind.
I've seen him a couple of times. Like, well, I'll ask him the next time I'm in Gainesville,
You should.
which will be a while. Mike, thank you. We appreciate your time very, very much. Mike Griffith, whatever, joining us. Always get discombobulated talking to Griff and Stephen A. Smith all in the same segment. We'll be right back.